From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Bozeman city leaders are looking at the idea of adding a proposed mill levy to the November ballot that would expand the size of the police and fire departments here in the city. I'm Edgar Cedillo, and I'll explain how this will affect both departments.
A terror investigation outside of Paris after an explosion in a hotel room. I'm Jared Hill with what we know and how this may impact President Biden's trip to commemorate D-Day.
I'm Jonathan Ambarian at the state capitol. I'll have a closer look at Montana's U.S. Senate and gubernatorial races, where the primaries were called quickly Tuesday night and set up what could be heated matchups in the general election.
I'm Megan Thompson here in Butte, and coming right up, I speak with the organizers of an event that's meant to be a community building exercise between different religions here in the mining city.
Alrighty, we are coming up on 6 o'clock on this Thursday morning. Jane McDonald and Matt Elwell with you. Almost a Friday, not yet, but gosh, we have a lot of lovely weather to enjoy.
You know what? I'm going to count it as a Friday at this point.
I think so.
Yeah, it's beautiful. We'll see if I'm here tomorrow.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Temperatures this morning into the 30s for a good portion of the area. Several areas still into the 40s. So a pretty mild morning, a little cooler, but not bad. Generally, we're looking at clear skies today on through the afternoon. There are some clouds into southern Gallatin, Madison, and Beaverhead counties that are possible, but overall, it's going to be a pretty nice start to the day. As we're watching the sun head over the horizon this morning, expect lighter winds. We still have some wind speeds up near 15 or 20 miles an hour that are possible, but our temperatures are warming up very quickly for the early part of the day. Talk about how long this is going to last, our next rain chances. That's all coming up here in a little bit.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. Now, a man under investigation in the death of his wife is behind bars. Christopher Wardle appeared in Gallatin County Justice Court Wednesday morning, charged with a DUI and violating the terms of his release from a different case involving his wife. Wardle is accused of attacking and strangling his wife, Catherine Sorensen, in January of 2022. Sorensen died a little over a year later in Park County after being run over by a car. She was with Wardle at the time, and according to the Park County attorney, the case is still being investigated. Wardle is also tied to a recent case of dog hoarding, in which dozens of dogs were allegedly taken from his home by a Park County dog rescue. Wardle is now suing the people involved with taking the dogs. And yesterday in court, Wardle pleaded not guilty to the DUI, and prosecutors filed a motion to revoke bail on assault charge. A hearing is set for July 9th. And nearly 20 years ago, Bozeman voters gave a thumbs up to adding police and fire staff. Now, our Edgar Cedillo reports that city leaders are once again floating the idea of expanding the police and fire departments.
On Tuesday night, Bozeman city leaders heard from Bozeman's fire and police chief about the possibility of bringing forward a mill levy that would expand both the fire and police departments in the city.
It would add a fourth fire station in the southwest corner of town. That gives us another fire engine, more firefighters.
Tuesday, Bozeman's fire and police chief asked city leaders for their input on an idea for a proposed mill levy that would grow their departments.
We've got to have the fire trucks to answer calls. So this would add another fire truck to the department along with the quick response vehicle. So today we have 3 response units. This would move us to 5.
With the levy, the fire department would add a station, new trucks, and personnel.
So Fire Station 2 and Station 3 are about the same size, and that's about what you would see at a Fire Station 4.
Right now, Bozeman Fire has 52 sworn people on staff. This would add 22 sworn members to the fire department. Bozeman Police currently has 66 sworn officers. This proposal would add 30 sworn positions and 8 non-sworn positions.
So a number of the officers we're asking for are just to get caught up to where we should be today.
Bozeman Police Chief Jim Veldkamp says that this would allow the department to focus on investigations and being proactive about preventing crime.
One of our goals of this would be to dedicate people exclusively to running traffic. And when we're not proactively responding and just reactively responding, the more calls we have, the slower our response time is.
Both chiefs say that this change would not happen overnight. Waldo says that the earliest a 4th fire station can be built and then staffed would be at least 2027.
We've got to have the fire truck to put the people on.
Both say that the cost and the tax burdens that this will have on residents is still being studied.
The cost it is to the community is well worth keeping Bozeman the safe place that we all know and love.
That's what we're going to be doing over the next month, is figuring out What's the fire station going to cost us? What are these personnel going to cost us?
Now, this is still in the early stages. We still don't know how much this will cost taxpayers. City leaders will still decide on whether or not to place this on the November ballot in July. In Bozeman, Edgar Cedillo, MTN News.
And soon President Biden is set to speak at a ceremony marking 80 years since the World War II D-Day operation in Normandy, France. The event honoring a turning point in World War II comes as French authorities are investigating a suspect who was arrested after an explosion at a hotel near Paris. CBS News' Jared Hill has more from New York.
This morning, France is on alert as President Joe Biden and other world leaders prepare to commemorate the 80th anniversary of D-Day. Authorities are investigating a Monday night explosion in a hotel room near Charles de Gaulle Airport, just outside of Paris. French police arrested an unnamed 26-year-old Russian-Ukrainian national who was badly burned in the explosion. Authorities found bomb-making materials in his room. French news reports say guns and fake passports were found there as well. The suspect is from the Russian-occupied Donbas region of Ukraine. He's currently being treated for burns at a local hospital. French police say he's cooperating. Right now, there are barricades and a heavy security presence outside of President Biden's hotel in Paris. The White House says it's aware of the incident and the FBI is looking into it. Secret Service, though, says so far there are no changes in the president's planned movements over the next few days.
He's here to honor the veterans, the men who gave their lives and those who fought bravely to defend freedom.
This comes as Paris is already on high alert ahead of next month's Olympic Games. Jared Hill, CBS News.
And Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky is also in France for the D-Day events. He and President Biden are expected to meet, discuss a range of issues. And Tuesday night's Montana primary results confirmed long-awaited matchups for the general election in two of the most prominent statewide races. MTN's senior political reporter Jonathan Imberian has a look at what you can expect in the U.S. Senate and the governor's race election.
In both the race for Montana's U.S. Senate seat and the race for governor, the incumbents easily cleared their primary elections on Tuesday, and the general election opponents who sharply criticized them also moved on. Senator Jon Tester secured 97% of the vote in the Democratic primary over Michael Hummert. On the Republican side, businessman Tim Sheehy won almost 3/4 of the vote, ahead of rivals Brad Johnson and Charles Walkingchild. It sets up what's expected to be one of the most watched and most contentious races in the country this year, with tens of millions of dollars already spent and much more likely between now and November. Sheehy's campaign released a statement tying Tester to President Biden's agenda and calling for change on issues like inflation and immigration. Tester's campaign shared comments he made Tuesday night, accusing his opponents of trying to make him something he's not and trying to change Montana's values. In the race for governor, incumbent Greg Gianforte received 3/4 of the Republican primary vote against challenger Tanner Smith. Former firearms executive Ryan Busse won the Democratic nomination with just over 70% of the vote against Jim Hunt. Busse has been on the offensive against Gianforte since launching his campaign, and said in a statement his first term has been a train wreck on issues like property taxes, housing, and health care. Gianforte released a statement saying the general election would offer Montanans a choice between a common-sense conservative agenda and far-left activism. There will also be third-party candidates on the ballot for each of these races. Green Party candidate Michael Downey led Robert Barb in a contested primary for U.S. Senate, Libertarian Senate candidate Sid Dowd and gubernatorial candidate Kaiser Lieb didn't have primary opponents. In Helena, Jonathan Imberian, MTN News.
And the Drug Enforcement Agency's Rocky Mountain Division is urging people to have a conversation with their friends, neighbors, and family about the dangers of the synthetic opioid fentanyl. According to the division, which covers Montana, Wyoming, Utah, and Colorado, agents are on track to seize a record number of the pills this year. These are images of recent drug seizures shared by the DEA. 2.4 million pills have been taken off the streets in the four-state area, including 40,000 in Montana. CDC provisional data shows U.S. overdose deaths surpassed 107,000 people in 2023. And former Bozeman City Manager Jeff Mihalik has a new job. According to MoCo 360, Mihalik was appointed as the new city manager of Rockville, Maryland, a suburb of Washington, D.C. Mihalik resigned as Bozeman city manager after a video surfaced of him complaining about the mayor and making disparaging remarks about other elected officials and the city. According to the MoCo 360 article, Mihalik said, quote, "I'm thrilled and honored to be Rockville's next city manager." His first day on the job is July 15th. And today, Butte Leaders of Faith will host a Festival of Lights. And our Megan Thompson explains how it's a celebration of different holiday traditions.
A rabbi, a minister, a priest, and a pagan walk into a temple. Sounds like the beginning of a joke, right? But it's actually happening here at the Butte Cultural Heritage Center, and it's a community building exercise based on a discussion about the similarities between the holidays that we celebrate.
I think that in today's world, there are so many divisions. We're seeing the rise of intolerance and racism, anti-Semitism across the world. And it's so important that we can demonstrate that we do, in fact, have more to share than whatever divides us.
Janet Cornish represents the Butte Cultural Heritage Center. She says the discussion is inspired by Butte's own history as a melting pot.
One of the things that we're really proud of as a community is that we have this rich heritage that not only defines us, but helps us perhaps be more welcoming of people from all different backgrounds.
We're trying to point out basically the commonalities of our different cultures and our different beliefs.
Kate McCourt is the Historic Preservation Officer for Butte Silver Bow and a panelist for the event. She studied pagan religious practices while working on her master's degree in England. She says much of our current religious practices stem from our early ancestors, like the Celts.
So all of these things are extremely translatable and easy to understand and interesting to people.
The talk begins at 6:30 in the evening at 327 West Galena Street and is free and open to the public. In Butte, Megan Thompson, MTN News.
I mean, talk about a melting pot of cultures over in the mining city.
You learn a lot.
You really do. It's a really cool opportunity. Now, before we head into a break, speaking of another cool opportunity, I'm going to introduce us to a 2-year-old Labrador Retriever. Now, who doesn't love to highlight these hard-working, 4-legged dogs? But usually, we're highlighting canine units for police departments or sheriff's offices. Well, this little girl has a very unique job. She is a United States Agriculture Department inspection dog. Now, she's based over in California and is one of only a handful of dogs trained to detect things like disease, pests, fruit flies that are coming in these shipments. And
interesting.
California being a huge producer in things from fruits and vegetables, so she has a pretty important job when it comes to feeding the world and, of course, just in her backyard as well.
That is really cool.
Isn't it cool? And she seems to love her job.
Yeah.
I mean, she's getting after it, so it's a fun thing. I think that's so awesome.
I think that's fun.
I do too. Now, we're going to keep talking about agriculture, but specifically the avian flu. The state of Iowa says a commercial farm needs to kill more than 4 million chickens this week after a case of the bird flu was detected. The disease has infected more than just poultry, and we're going to explore the effects in the commercial landscape in just a few minutes.